That's cool. That works. It's not East Coast or West Coast. It's like there's no W and K or whatever beforehand, but you get it. And I asked around to the people that I knew, and I got Gardy from Unreal to do the logo originally. He made a little circle, which is supposed to be the ear, and the lightning thing through the middle, which is supposed to be the buzz. And I said, "What is that?" So yep. I love reading about and watching and learning about that meta stuff. And, now we got all the Easter eggs and the Marvel movies and the things that are callbacks. And you're sitting there watching John Landis again, Trading Places, right? The connection of how he gets these bands on his label, but I might have something to do with the fact that he's networking between me and all these different people, and we're all just sharing our love, and it's all kind of incestuous, and I'm so happy that I am associated with him, because I don't think the station would be the same without him.
Hello, everyone. This is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of 2 podcast features. One, PCE, which stands for Post Concert Energy, and the one that you are tuning into right now. This is called Surprise Cast. I want to read something to you, and then I will bring in our special guest. Here we go. We are rolling into summer here in Burbank. Though the days are still pleasantly 80 degrees or lower, May is coming with Crew World and Swerve Driver, as is my week away from work and stress. EDBC blog, number 36, April 29th. Who wrote this? Let's bring in our special guest, Bret Miller. How are you? Yeah.
All right, I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for quoting me. I did have a good May. We're still experiencing kind of the June gloom, but I see the sun coming out, the trash drivers coming by, the dogs barking across the street. But otherwise, great to be finally talking with you out of my room in Burbank, California. And you're located in San Francisco yourself?
Just outside San Francisco, but yes. I want to start off with a few icebreaker questions, and then I definitely want to talk about a few things, possibly movies, this radio show, and a thing called Crew World Festival.
Oh, yeah.
How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to throw a heavy one at you. And this one comes from a book written by Brené Brown. And she wrote a book recently called Atlas of the Heart, Mapping Meaningful Connection and the Language of Human Experience. And in this chapter, she talks about heartbreak, such a valuable experience as humans go through certain parts of their life. Here we go. Every time we love, we risk heartbreak. Despite how lonely heartbreak feels, it is universal. I remember sitting next to a woman in an airport terminal waiting for our plane to board. She started weeping. She was probably in her early 60s, and she was by herself. When I asked her if she was okay and if I could get her anything, she didn't reply. She just shook her head and looked away. I returned to reading my book until about 20 minutes later, the woman said, "We had to put our dog down. My heart is broken." She wasn't looking at me when she said it. She was looking straight ahead. I said, "I'm so sorry." And I squeezed her forearm. We ended up talking until we boarded. And when we deplaned in Houston, she gave me a hug. So, Bret, if you wouldn't mind telling us, did you ever experience the loss of a pet, something as devastating, heartbreaking as that?
Yeah, actually, I think I was about 17, and our dog ran off out the front door and ran down the street. A few houses down from where we are is an alley, runs into the alley, and somebody is backing out of their driveway, their garage. and hits my dog. And I'm literally holding her in my arms, squished backside, and had to take her to the vet and put her down. And I got my driver's license driving test that day. I don't know how I managed to get through that, but yeah, and yeah, heartbreaking. That the thing is that pets, they become a part of your life and they have a personality, and you project a lot of things onto them. But Jimmy Carr does a bit, and he's talking about how he's talking to the audience, and this lady's a veterinary nurse. He goes, "How many cats have you killed?" And he's a comedian, so you're wondering where it's coming from. But he goes, "Me, I'm a comedian. I haven't killed anybody, any cat this week." He goes, "I had to take our cat to the doctor. The doctor says it's going to cost 4,000 pounds. What's that?" And he says, "That's 5,000 euros. Well, it's another way of saying we no longer have a cat, because he's going, you don't go to the hospital and the doctor's like, 'Oh, your son's got to have an operation. It's going to be really expensive.'"
Right.
And he goes, "Well, you never say that. Well, just can't have a kid." But one of my DJs actually works at a veterinary hospital. So we all love our pets.
We do. And I want to keep pressing forward, if you don't mind, with that very tragic experience. When you were going through that, did you have any ill feelings towards the person that hit your pet?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
There's senior citizen. They had no idea. Dog was just running out and got there at the wrong time. I don't know why she was running into the alley, No, don't even know their name. Don't even know what they look like.
What do you think you learned from that experience that you didn't already know?
Train your dogs not to run. I guess you realize life is fleeting, and, something can happen just outside your door that could end a life, something like that.
Yeah.
If it happened earlier in life, yeah, might be more
did you
cynical.
grow up with pets?
Always. Yeah.
Where?
Here in Burbank, in the house. Yeah.
And is this something that was celebrated with all the family members? And let me tell you why, because I grew up with two other brothers, and there were times I felt like I was doing a lot of the work, taking care of our dog. And I know my brothers loved our dog, but it just seemed at times like, wait, who really loves the dog? Is it my dad? Is it my mom? Is it me? Blah, blah, blah. So for you, were your pets revered and loved by everyone, or did someone get it? Yeah.
I remember my stepdad put the dogs on the side of the house, got a little break between and a little wall. And I also might have put them in the backyard. We got like a two-part yard where it's separated in the middle by a brick wall, and there was like gravel and stuff, and put up a fence. And I just remember being so miserable because the dogs are so miserable because, they were just like, we can't have our people anymore, kind of felt separated from them and really sad. Of course, I didn't know when I was, a teenager or whatever, that I was highly sensitive or an introvert. But obviously the place where they slept wasn't conducive to the folks, so they decided to put the pets outside, so stuff like that. But we try to have indoor dogs now, and that are kind of small, and you wouldn't want to put them outside. They wouldn't do too well. Although the one we have now, like sleeping outside at night because it's super hot. If you've been to the San Fernando Valley in the middle of the summer, is that a yes?
I have.
Wow. Yeah. So if you open up all the windows and you sleep naked, you're halfway there. It's still 80, 90 degrees in the middle of the night sometimes here in the San Fernando Valley in the middle of the summer.
Well, let's go take a little deep dive into your childhood. So growing up in Burbank, for people that aren't familiar with Burbank, it is really what they call the media capital of the world. It's, you've got it's kind of near Hollywood, Disney, Nickelodeon, all that stuff, Burbank Studios, of course. What was it like growing up there for you?
I mean, I don't know if it would be that much different than for anybody else. I mean, unless you thought those places were important. As a kid, I don't know that building houses that or that. I knew like the back lot of the Disney studios is where they filmed Tarzan.
Mm.
I knew that going around Barham up to Cahuenga, that studio was where they filmed the ending of Blazing Saddles because that's where they came out of at the end of Blazing Saddles. And I knew that, the Chinese theater where that movie almost ended I've been there before. And I was like, did they really ride their horses over Barham Pass over to Cahuenga? I don't know. I knew that watching certain TV shows that they were just down the street, where they're filming that, or they were at the Sahara and True Romance film there. But so many different places that I was familiar with were on TV and film. And then the next shot, they're turning a corner onto Hollywood Boulevard. I'm going, wait a minute. They must have missed something there because they were just down the street on Clark and whatever cross street were, a few blocks from where I live. And I'm like, Policewoman's full of crap, whatever the TV show was. So I was aware of locations. I mean, when in Teen Wolf, where Marty's surfing on the van, he's from Pasadena. When he's in Back to the Future, when he's leaving the Doc's place on his skateboard,
Yep.
He goes from there to another place, and he's turning around the corner of Victory and Magnolia, where the Burger King still is to this day. But movie magic, they're popping from one place to the other to not give you any idea of necessarily where they're filming it, but that's just because of where they could film. What was convenient for them or how they could plan it all out.
So
I knew all the basics of how it applied to me.
yeah.
I took classes in college, but didn't really apply myself. I did craft service for a bunch of commercials and music videos and stuff. But I never wanted to, after doing the music videos and stuff, I was like, I don't want to work 12, 14-hour days. It's hell on an introvert. I need my alone time. And sure, I was just, not selling, but serving snacks and things. But, when Bono comes up to you on the back lot of Universal Studios for a video they're doing that ties into a movie, was it a Tomb Raider? Yeah, they did a song where they did a video for Tomb Raider. And he's just like surrounded by his kids and the band's kids. It's like, it's such a beautiful Sunday. It'd be such a great day for, what do you call those ice creams on the lozenge, And I'm like, Bono wants me to get ice cream on a stick, take off, drive down the street, get some ice cream on a stick, come back, get it for him. And he gets it to all the kids. He signs my, CD, I get to go in their little trailers where the two of the guys are together and the other two guys are together and give them all my tea, my hot water makers, so that kind of stuff is exciting.
Yeah. So growing up, what did your parents do?
My dad did stuff for the aerospace industry. He put together little parts and things. My stepdad worked for CBS, then he worked for NBC. And then my mom was a mom until I was in my teens, and then she cut hair. Now she likes to sew and knit and macrame and stuff. Yeah.
So you mentioned your father and stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still in contact with your biological father?
No, he passed away.
And when did he pass away?
Like about 8 years ago.
And what was that relationship like?
Well, of course you love your parents. And I believe he tried to do the best he could, but I think he didn't know that he was also an introvert. I don't know if he was highly sensitive as well. That's can't ask him, but he liked jazz music, so he'd listen to EO or whatever the station is from Long Beach College that's been doing jazz music for decades. He liked going camping, so we'd always be like in Carpinteria or someplace Oceanside or San Diego area at the beach. We never really went too much inland. I always remember ocean and sand. So we did that quite often with my brother and I. And, but I guess right around the time my folks got divorced was when he was born again. And I guess that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back with my mom anyway.
Mm,
Cause she was Jewish, but reformed, it's not like she went to temple or anything.
yeah.
But yeah, my dad tried to take my brother and I to church, and my grandmother on my mom's side would take us to temple, and either way we'd fall asleep. The only the only the only difference is that at temple they were very not very, but they were chanty and sing songy
Yeah.
and a little bit more not dramatic, but like entertaining. And but there was always snacks afterwards. Whereas church, you just got to sit there and watch a guy talk, and then they sang a few songs, and then he left. So I liked temple for the most part. It was on a Friday. It was on a Saturday morning. You didn't have to get up too early, but it was on a Friday night. So being a kid, and I would go nap on the chairs in the room, and then we knew everything was done when everybody came into the room and had their snacks and coffee.
Yeah.
So regardless, religion and traditional practices like that had no bearing on had made no impact on my interest in religion. I tried to follow Christianity a little bit, but to in my mind, it was just like, you know what? Be a good person, treat others well.
Hmm.
That's all you really need to do. George
Right.
Carlin and his 10 Commandments, right?
Yeah.
You've heard the skit?
I haven't, but I can only imagine.
Well, he breaks it down. He goes, well, we've got these 10 commandments. And he goes, well, don't covet your wife. Don't your neighbor's wife. Don't think about things that are sins. And he goes, don't do this, don't do it. And he goes, well, you can pretty much just combine them all to be good and don't do bad shit. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So,
I remember
so
that. So with your father and your mother getting a divorce, I've spoken to so many artists where divorce really impacted them during childhood.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that impact, I'd love to hear it.
my dad was still living in the house while my mom was dating her second husband. And they would come back, they would come back to the house, and I would hear in the back of the house or my room them talking, and I'd hear my dad in the bedroom in the front of the house crying. And so that wasn't fun because you don't understand as a kid what's going on. And even if the parents explained it to you, you wouldn't know what's going on because it's a different language. Your brain is not functioning the way that an adult's might. And well, as an adult in quotes, I don't even think people's brains function that great now, but it took a lot of, I don't know, trust out of me, but it just kind of made me again, think, just to be careful and maybe be more guarded. But I was that way anyway. Being an introvert and highly sensitive, I had allergies, hard to read situations and hard to want to go out and be around people. I'll kind of tie it in. So I don't know. Yeah, it was tough for a few years, but you move on and things get better, and stepdad's cool and has more money and more willing to go out to restaurants and enjoy life. And he was a good guy, Mike. My biological dad's Ken. But yeah, then when my mom divorced him again, I thought everything was great living with my girlfriend at the time, and he comes over and starts talking to us about what's going on with him. And I'm like, oh, this is, you don't, the parents should never, ever, ever visit their problems onto their children, no, relationship problems ever. Cause that led to my girlfriend leaving after 5 years. So,
Oh man.
it's,
Well,
it's,
this
it's
ties into
generational trauma as
heartbreak.
well.
Yeah, this definitely ties into the heartbreak part of the conversation. And as you were going through that experience with your parents in the divorce, what helped you cope? Was it music? Or was it any friends that you had?
Oh
Was
yeah.
it,
Oh yeah.
yeah?
Music, movies, friends. Being tall and gangly, music always fit.
Mhm.
Clothes didn't always fit. Situations didn't always fit, but music always fit. And so when I was in junior high, as it's called middle school now,
Yeah.
uh, you started going to shows, and it was always, the big places you couldn't walk to. The parents wouldn't let you take the bus. They got to drive you over to Universal Amphitheater, which is closed, and, pick you up. And it was always a big deal. So I never really got to go to too many shows without a car. But once I got a car, well, once I got friends with cars, went to a few more shows. And so that was my not exit from real world, but just kind of a reinforcement of the good stuff and something that brought in hope. So we had KMET, we had KLOS, we had KROQ. And they started out with more of the rock oriented stations, and they were playing the new wave type stuff because, record labels.
Right.
K-Rock got my ear, and so I started listening to them and all their weird DJs and all their great music. And I think that kind of shaped me. But that's my interest is music and movies. And I used to read a lot of books. And so that was an escape. And so I think that probably when I was 11, 12, 13, 14 was when I really got into bands like, the Cars and the Police and the Cure. New Order was just a year away with their Substance double CD, and the Cure put out, Staring at the Sea, Standing on the Beach, the double cassette, right? Oh,
Yes.
you gave me the thumbs up with the whole second, whole second side of all the B-sides. And so it opened up a world of interest for me, along with, running over to the warehouse and waiting for the newest VHS movie tape to come in because I couldn't always, get to the movies. But yeah, I'd say that kind of stuff kind of helped me get through a lot of things and really shape my moral code or reinforce my moral code. But yeah, it doesn't beat actually having living, experiences. But if I meet people who know movies and books, I can talk to them about that kind of stuff. So that helps.
Sure. One more question related to the divorce experience, kind of like the question I asked about the loss of your pet, your dog. What do you think you gained from that experience? What tools did it give you?
The divorce?
Yeah. In
Well,
retrospect.
it's kind of the uncertainty and having to learn to live with another person in your house. And it took a good year or two, maybe. Mike was a great guy. He was 6'10", and people I work with who are, 6 feet tall are close. They're telling me I'm imposing. And I'm going, I'm imposing, well, yeah, I guess to somebody who's 5 feet, but it's very hard to be tall and be, you shrink up and you slump and you try to not be, but so it was a little tough to get used to him, but he gave me, what's the little 8 tracks.
Oh,
Yeah. So one of the 8 tracks was of Steely Dan's Asia.
okay.
And so the 8 tracks were basically, cassettes, but you could fast forward to the next track. And sometimes there was like a extra length of time on one side or the other because, they couldn't cut it right equally in half to start the next song. So you always had to sit there and wait till the end. But like my dad remarried, and his wife had vinyl copy of Fleetwood Mac's Tusk.
Mm.
So Fleetwood Mac became one of my favorite bands. Steely Dan became one of my favorite bands. And so the people, whether I had an easy time or difficult time interacting with them, or, getting good footing on with them, at least I appreciate that I got turned on to two incredible bands with a wonderful history and got to see both of them live.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
that life doesn't have to be perfect, and you may not have to like everything about somebody, but if they give you your next favorite band, at least you can go, at least we got that in common.
You'd mentioned that you're an introvert and your father was an introvert. Yeah.
I'm 95% positive, but when you are growing up in, the mid century, there's nobody telling you, there's no Myers-Briggs test.
Right.
Oh, he's a
Now,
sensitive boy,
yeah. So with being an introvert, getting energy from your own world rather than people, this is very interesting because I imagine you've been to many concerts, yeah?
Yes, many show, many. For a good 4 or 5 year period, I was going to several shows a week.
So was that hard for you? Because now you're surrounded by this social gathering, and I imagine you're feeding off the energy from the show, from the event.
Right.
So was that difficult to be in amongst a sea of people?
Well, I had this conversation with my friend Mike, who I've known since I was 17, 18. He loves going to Disneyland, and he loves standing in line, and he loves seeing all the new rides, and he loves seeing all the things that are going on, and the people playing music on the corner and the marching and all. He loves going out in public and doing all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure he's a partial an ambivert, but he's like, you go to concerts. I said, I don't like crowds. He goes, you go to concerts all the time. I said, yeah, I'm focused on the band. I'm there for the band. I'm there for the music. All the other stuff is just in the way, or, not necessarily in the way, but okay, sing Underworld, and they're doing the tour that they recorded for Everything. And I'm at the Santa Monica Civic Arena.
Yeah.
There's some bleachers in the back, but mostly it's just the floor. And I've already waited outside for an hour and a half, 2 hours with the people that were all ready to go see the show. A guy that owned a restaurant in Hollywood that I actually DJ'd at one night, I see him. And so it's all communal. We're all ready for the experience of dance music and stuff. And I'm in there, and it's 2 hours gone by, and I'm drenched with sweat, and I'm dancing, and I'm looking around all the people, and we're all smiling, chin up and thumbs up. And it's just like, and so if you can lose yourself and not worry about what's going on around you, or at least appreciate what's going on around you, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like when I go to a movie now, and there's some kid with his little watch thing that flickers every time he moves his hand, and he has to keep on looking on his phone, and his girlfriend brings out her phone, and she sets it on her lap, and things keep on shining in your eyes. It's just like, I've got to go move my seat, because it's really hard to focus on the movie in that case. But that's now. I don't go to so many shows now because I have tinnitus, so I'm not going to ruin my hearing going to too many shows. But I think that, to answer your question more concisely, all of the exterior outside stuff is worth dealing with in order to go to the show, see the band, and experience them live.
I see. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You've mentioned, Bret, several times in this conversation, movies. And I think I'd like to move the conversation into cinema, if you don't mind.
We're so glad to see so many of you lovely people here tonight.
So you and I have something in common. Movies were an escape for you when you were younger. They were definitely an escape for me as I dealt with some childhood craziness in my life. Movies such as Jaws, Halloween, Dead Poet Society, Blade Runner, and I could go on and on.
No, you could, and I agree with most of those on that list.
So tell me some films. Yeah, tell us some films that had a big impact on you and maybe inspired you.
You mentioned Blade Runner. I saw it in the theater, and I knew Harrison Ford. I Star Wars.
Yeah,
Han Solo. I maybe forgot that he was in what was the movie about the kids right before they went off to the Vietnam War and they're all riding around their cars.
American Graffiti.
Yep. I may have not known that he was in that before he was Han Solo, but I knew who he was. I knew Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that stuff was around that time. But just the fact that whether I knew what a film noir was or not, I never seen the Maltese Falcon and never really cared about those old men in suits and trench coats and, black and white type stuff. But I appreciated the movie because it was possible. All the people with money got off the earth, and what was left was this acid rain drenched, cloudy, dirty, wet downtown Los Angeles type thing. I'm like, that sounds reasonable. I can see that happening. But the whole idea of these people that were made to be people for all intents and purposes, whether they were super strong, super fast, super beautiful, they all had their purposes. They were made to have a purpose, but for whatever reason, their creator decided to give them memories to make them believe they were people so that maybe they were more pliable. I don't know. But they only had 4 years to live. And so when Rutger Hauer is chasing Harrison Ford character around in the buildings and jumping across to the other building, he's the whole time taunting him, and you don't know why. As a kid, you're like, the bad guy is just chasing the good guy, and he wants to kill him. And then you realize, you watch it again and again and again, you realize this guy that knows he's about to die and never be able to see anything and experience anything ever again is chasing down a guy who has no idea of how good he's got his life to be able to go out and find these experiences and enjoy what the world and the universe has to offer. And so at the end, he's sitting there with his legs crossed and his boxers on and just shirtless. And Harrison Ford is just like panting and, ready to just get killed. Here's Rutger Hauer's character just go, I've seen all these things, and it's like all these memories are just going to die, and I'm not going to have anything to show for it. And this whole thing has been a lesson to Harrison Ford's character to go out and be brave and enjoy your life. And so, and he just sits there with the pigeon in his hand, and he just lets the pigeon go. And he dies. And so the original version, you never saw Harrison Ford drive off with what's her name? Sean Young's character. That scene was filmed for The Shining, where you see the car driving through the trees and the mountains. Right? And so not only watching the original movie several times and finding all these little depths and nuances and things, and you're going, is Sean Young's character? Well, we know she's an android. Does she have a 4-year thing on her? We don't know. But we know that Harrison Ford's character is also an android because the other guy who left the unicorn on his table also knows that Harrison Ford character is an android. And does he have 4 years to live or longer? The scene with the unicorn was taken from legend. Yes, also Ridley Scott. But years later, they put out the director's cut. Or another cut. And then years later they put out another cut. So I've seen in the theater at least three different cuts of the movie. And then I bought the DVD in the big box, which is made to look like the Voight Kampf tester thing to see if you're human or not. And there's all the versions of the movies with and without the voiceover, with extra scenes, with the ending of the car driving through the mountains. And I think they had, for some reason, redone the scene with the lady running through the glass, the android running through the glass. For whatever reason, they had to redo that. And it was the same actress decades later. And she says the outfit still fit. Oh, because of the higher resolution, the stunt double looked nothing like her. So I know a lot about, I read the original book, and I read the book that this one guy wrote about the making of it.
The Philip K. Dick book?
Yes. Do androids dream of electric sheep?
So obviously you are well versed in Blade Runner lore and all the aspects.
Enough. Get by.
And it sounds like you have a great appreciation for Ridley Scott's work.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us some other movies, directors that you admire.
Blues Brothers. Is that Landis?
John Landis.
John Landis did Blues Brothers. He did American Werewolf in London.
Yep.
And then Ghostbusters. Right? Blues Brothers was Dan Aykroyd wrote the script. It was 300 pages long or something like that. And John Landis goes, okay, I can't film 300 pages. It would take way too long to do. He reads through it. He goes, well, we don't need this. We can't do that. This is unfilmable, whatever. The movie was 2 hours and 5 minutes. And the last 45 minutes was car crash upon car crash upon car crash upon car crash. They left the place that they were supposedly playing their last concert, which was actually the Hollywood Palladium.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And the town they were in was 100 and something miles from Chicago, where they had to get to the Daily Plaza to get the money to the guy so that their old orphanage wouldn't close. So they're on a mission from God. They leave at night, and it couldn't possibly be later than 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, the show just started. They played 2 songs and they snuck off. Well, they didn't even play 2 songs. Cab Calloway played a song, and then they came in and played I Need You, and then they snuck off. So no later than 11. Get in their car, drive to Chicago. It takes them until the next morning to get to Chicago, 100 miles away, going at 80 miles an hour, to get downtown, where the SWAT team's there and the guys on horses are there, and hut, and they're dropping down from the roofs and they're driving up tanks for these 2 guys dressed like Hasidic Jews, to quote one of the characters saying, "No, ma'am, we're musicians." To get up to the room to find out that the guy's eating lunch and it's Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
And they lift him up by his arms from both sides, turn him around, take him over to this desk so that he could stamp the thing, take the money. And as soon as that happens, they get the bracelets on him and they're in jail. So, God. And I wouldn't have been turned on to all that blues music and stuff unless I'd seen the movie, but I knew that their band were the guys that were on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that's right.
All of their band was in Saturday Night Live, except for the guy who worked at the really nice restaurant, who was a real actor.
Yeah.
Who was supposed to be the 4th horn player in the band, but there's literally only 3 horn players playing in the music.
Okay.
Paul Rubens was in the movie. Pee Wee Herman.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah. Of course, you have John Candy.
Was it Piggly Wiggly or something? It's like, you want to Orange Julius? Orange Whip? You had the guy that became the Deep Throat type guy who was in the first several years of the X-Files
Oh yeah,
as yep. I'm
you're
going,
right.
that son of a bitch, if it's the last thing I ever do.
Frank
Um,
Oz.
Frank Oz, yes.
He plays the
Aretha
corrections officer.
Franklin, Cab Calloway, James Brown,
So
John
did this movie
Hooker.
feel like to you like anything was possible? Because that's for me, that's what I saw this so many times, and every time I was like, oh my God, this what they're doing here is particularly the car chase scenes. I never see anything like it. Ever.
I hate what was it? I hate the something Nazis. They dropped a car from like half a mile above the city in order to make it look like it was falling off the freeway they were still building. It made me think anything was possible. The car, the old beat up muscle car, cop car without the
Yeah.
catalytic converter, so it could go like 200 miles, was written as a magic car.
Wow.
It drove through water. It leaped over high opening bridges and landed safely. It managed to get through that driveway that led to their parking structure between all the buildings that you don't see in the movie. You only see a little bit of it. It flips upside down and back down again, and they keep on driving. It was funny.
Yeah.
Wanted to see them live so bad. They were playing at the Universal Amphitheater, and I believe it was before they put a roof on it, so it was going to be less people because they kind of did an addition to it. But the LA Times did an ad where it was them both with their hats and their faces and their collars and their ties hanging down. I literally cut that out and drew over it with like charcoal pen or
Yeah.
charcoal pencil and on like white construction paper and stuck them to my wall, that blue sticky tack stuff. And I had that on my wall for years. Folks wouldn't let me go. I was 13.
Mm.
You know? So yeah, so a lot of music came out of the movies for sure. All the teen comedy stuff that came out in the 80s when you and I were teenagers and all that music, and you're just like, they're playing Elegia from New Order in the sad part of this song, or they're playing If You Leave by OMD, which when they played at Cruel World, maybe we'll segue into that. they showed what's her name in the background, like she was something from Andy Warhol painting, just kind of big bold in the background. I'm like, oh, that's right. So I think that's probably where a lot of my music came from, was the movies.
Yeah. Me too. Absolutely. And before we actually move into Cruel World Festival, you had mentioned Steven Spielberg, John Landis. You were alluding to John Hughes.
Yes.
Other directors, Ridley Scott, other directors that opened your eyes. For me, it was Peter Weir.
Okay.
Peter, yeah, still am a massive Peter Weir
Witness.
fan. Witness, Dead Poets Society, Picnic at Hanging Rock, Last Wave. So, yeah, if you wouldn't mind closing this part of the conversation, naming some directors that you really enjoy, appreciate.
Well, of course, there's Coppola.
Yeah.
And to watch this epic movie about something that happened before you were born, but still affected everybody that was your parents' age.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it was my World War II movie for my grandparents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I did a project in college, after reading The Heart of Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, okay, so let me get this straight. The Heart of Darkness is what became Apocalypse Now. So here's a story about this guy who has to go. He's working for this train company or this goods company, import company, and he has to go into Africa and go down this river to find out what happened to all the people that were working for this company and what they're doing. I forget exactly what they were doing or why they were there, but just the fact that they were there with this charismatic cuckoo guy, and this guy had to take this journey down this river to go find out what happened. I'm going, that's Apocalypse Now. And so Coppola goes, I'm just going to take that framework and throw them in the jungles of Vietnam and also show people the craziness that went on there. And of course, for our generation later would be Full Metal Jacket. Jeez. This is my weapon. This is my gun. This is for play. This is for fun. Oh, he was evil. But Vincent D'Onofrio, great actor. But back to The Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now, his wife directed a documentary because she was filming the making of the movie as they were making the movie. So how do you make a movie? They're in the Philippines. They're borrowing the Philippine Army's north-south. There was a civil war going on, and they were using one side's helicopters for the scene where they were using the helicopters. I can't remember exactly. They had to stop midway through the shooting of these scenes with the helicopters because there was a civil war going on and the military needed those helicopters back.
I know.
Oh, gosh. There's a scene where Martin Sheen is in his room and he's relieving all the stress and the anger and all the stuff going on. And he's bashing into things and he's bleeding. Yeah. He has a heart attack.
Yes, that's right.
He has a heart attack and gets sent back to the States for several months while they figure out what they can do and who they can keep on. And Coppola's writing the script at night after filming each scene, rewriting, type. So the documentary was incredible because that was made correctly. The framework was, again, correctly the beginning, the journey, and the end. So the documentary copied the basic storyline as well as the movie storyline as this journey into darkness. Right? So yep. I love reading about and watching and learning about that meta stuff. And, now we got all the Easter eggs and the Marvel movies and the things that are callbacks and you're sitting there watching John Landis again, Trading Places, right? Was that John Landis?
Yep.
I might be getting the directors mixed up now. Who was in Ghostbusters?
Well, you had Bill Murray, you had Harold Ramis, you had
Harold Ramis.
Yep.
Harold Ramis did a lot of movies.
Yep.
Yeah. So Meatballs. Caddyshack.
Oh, classic.
And so I'm pretty sure most of the guys who are funny and wrote these funny scripts and direct these funny movies were also of Jewish heritage. And if not, at least they were humorous and I got the jokes. So Landis and all those guys were big and, that everything needs to be dark and bad. And my folks watch these TV series and these from Sweden, they're watching Animal Kingdom. I'm like, is there one likable character? I get it. Some of the people are great actors and stuff, but I'm like, I don't really need to see bad guys doing bad things. I'd rather see good guys and bad guys. But then, there's Guy Ritchie, Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, a few other movies that he did. I mean, I've enjoyed the World War II one that he did.
Yeah, that's right.
Rock and Rolla. And I like him because the Gentleman, I mean, they even made a short little series kind of circling around the characters from the movie, the Gentleman movie. I like that dialogue. I like hearing, the way they speak and the characters. I'm picturing his face. Who's the guy who's playing the Penguin now?
Yeah.
Irish actor, good looking.
Yeah. Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, thank you. Colin Farrell shows up with like a crew cut glasses, track suit, short beard maybe, and he's owns a boxing studio that happens to have a bunch of these knockabout guys who go and rip off in the gentleman Matthew McConaughey's weed, and they make a music video out of it. They literally make a music video, and they throw in the footage of them stealing this guy's weed. And so it all circles back to Colin Farrell's guy, and he's just great. I mean, if you didn't know it was Colin Farrell, I'd be like, that's just a cool guy I would not want to have to deal with. But, he's worried that he's going to get knocked, what do you call it? Get the gun to his head and go bye-bye.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to make it good, guys. I don't want to be on your bad side. They're good boys. They're stupid sometimes,
I'm so glad you mentioned, and thank you, by the way, for sharing all your love and passion for the movies. I'm so glad you mentioned Hearts of Darkness, because I remember when that was released, and
Joseph Conrad.
Yes, Joseph Conrad. When this documentary was released in the early 90s, I remember Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, two of my biggest inspirations, film critics.
Yes.
Besides Pauline Kael and others. I remember they raved about this. And when viewing this documentary, like you and I could sit here and talk about it, but I'm telling all the listeners, check it out. It's like, you're just thinking the whole time, how the hell, based on everything that you hear and see, how the hell is this movie even made? And his wife, Eleanor Coppola, who narrates a lot of this, it's a really fascinating look and how movies, the magic behind them, but also like the improbable. And I highly recommend it. So I'm so glad you share that one with us. It is a must watch. Okay.
I'm going to have to watch it again now. You got me wanting to watch it now. I had made it myself want to watch it.
Yeah, that's really good. All right. So yeah, that's right. Larry Fishburne. Career World Festival. So I'm wearing the Career World Festival t-shirt. Okay. Look at that. And before I give my opinion on the whole festival that took place last month in Pasadena, what was your experience?
Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love.
What do you think?
I or my friend Danon, who I've gone with for the last 4 years now, and even the year before that, we saw the Pasadena Daydream with The Cure. He bought the tickets this time, but we don't leave anything to chance. Mm-hmm. I forgot that he bought the tickets, so there was a little bit of stress there when I couldn't open up and find out, that the tickets were available now. But I feel like this has been the best year of the 4 so far, and I don't know if it's necessarily because the bands were the best, or we know what to expect regardless of who's playing. But it was cold. It was not cold, but it was not hot. It was cloudy, overcast. It was a steady mist of drizzle for like 2.5 hours. And we were at the main stage. We got there just in time for, what's his name? Midge. And from him through, the 4 or 5 bands in a row we saw that were all from Britain. They're like, sorry. But I was like, no, this was great. We got to see, I think, the most female-led member acts, musicians of the past several years. Yeah. And it was the least stressful, the most organized, and the most diverse, and the least hot of all the shows we've been to. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year.
So for the listeners, this big, huge event middle of May, Pasadena. I'm going to read some of the artists, the bands. We had Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, New Order, Go-Go's, Madness, Alison Moyet, Lamonge, Buzzcocks, Clan of Zymox, Actors, Till Tuesday, and Nation of Language, and Devo, of course. You know, I want to get your take on big events like this. So most people who go to these things are aware that these bands, these artists will play 30 to 45 minutes. Great. And then they just kind of herd them off and the next band comes up and it moves very quickly. And I was very impressed on how on time they were with everything. But when I go to these big festivals, which is not often, there's something missing. And I don't know what it is, Bret. Help me. What is missing? Is it because they only play 30, 45 minutes? I know the bigger bands play longer. But Jesus, like Nation of Language, they only played for 30 minutes. I could have sat there for another 30 minutes. Do you know what I'm saying? Or is it just me?
I feel like after being to a few festivals that I would prefer, and obviously almost every other person would prefer to see the one or two or three bands that they really adore at a smaller venue, headlining, maybe another one or two bands playing, and just go directly to that, become immersed in the band, focus yourself. That's the band you love. You want to see them. You want to see more of them. Yeah. After going to the Coachella Festival, a lot of bands I would have loved to just see just them.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to see Sigur Rós, just them, but they played in a small tent and that was my spiritual experience, you know, see them up close. But Squirrel World, for you to get up close, it's a lot more doing. So if you're on the smallest of the three stages, not too bad, not too hard. On the second of the stages, still not too hard. And the fact that the majority of the audience was, I'm just going to go low, over 30.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody was kind of cool. Everybody was pretty cool. There wasn't too many elbows and jostling. There was a couple of drunken assholes who just barreled their way through everybody instead of stood on feet and knocked a few people over, but few and far between.
I agree.
Always going to be an asshole. But the immersion of being able to focus on the music is just going to be lacking if you're going to a big festival where they only play 30 minutes and there's 5,000 people in front of you. I don't live in England. I don't go to their festivals because they've got Ferris wheels and they've got rides and you never see the outhouses. You never see where the food is. You see a mass of 10, 20, 30,000 people on a grass field or on a floor of a football stadium, like we would have like the Coliseum, and a stage, and these idiots waving these 10-foot tall sticks with flags on them, blocking half the band. And they're all elbow to elbow, girls sitting on shoulders, people being stomped on. Where do they go to the bathroom? You know, that kind of investment to me is, I'm never even going to consider it. The Squirrel Festival, outhouses are right next to the stage.
Yes.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
And if you got VIP, not only were they outhouses, they were actually trailers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And air conditioning.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay that. I'm going to be with the masses, you know. I don't need any special treatment, but yeah, I think this year was the best, the most diverse. And, you know, couple of us were ready to go before New Order, but my friend Dana wanted to go see them. And so I'm like, cool, you know, I can live through another hour of pain and, you know, hearing loss and knowing that it's going to be, you know, that much longer to get back home. But we had a great time. We ate before, we hung out. I met somebody new. We hung out after, had some pizza.
Nice.
And, you know, I'm going to see Dana in September back in San Diego for Nights of Ebb.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Stereolab is playing in October. So that's my year. You know?
I thought that the performance by Till Tuesday, I was actually really impressed.
Yeah.
I loved how professional they sounded. I love that even though Till Tuesday is definitely an 80s band, they didn't ham up the cheese at all. It sounded very current and very Amy Mannish. So that impressed me. I also loved OMD and how they can really just light the fire and get everyone
So good.
singing and dancing. Yeah. I will say for me, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I know I'm biased because that's one of my favorite artists of all time. We were to the left of the stage, and you'd see him on the big, huge screens.
Mm.
And I've seen him many times before, but with each performance that he delivers, I always walk away kind of like that Hearts of Darkness movie, like, how the hell? What is this? This is crazy. And he's still doing it. He's still affecting me that way. And he gets me to think, and he gets me to really contemplate life in a way that, I don't know, it's such a visceral experience. So love that. And I will finally say that I thought Mid-Year sounded so good. And again, you take his Ultravox stuff and people forget his wonderful solo work. And I love the amalgamation of the two. But Cruel World, I will say the thing that bothered me the most is the Wi-Fi system. There was no Wi-Fi. And if there was an emergency, I don't even know how to get a hold of anyone. If I'd gone with a bunch of people and I said, all right, we'll meet you at this stage, we'll meet you at that stage, couldn't be done. And it pissed me off because I knew when we got to our car, the Wi-Fi would be working. So I don't know if you had that experience, but that frustrated me. If I wanted to take pictures and send them to you, right, or whoever, I couldn't do that.
Before heading in there, and so Danon, I've known for years.
Yeah.
He's come out here. We've seen shows for years. He's in Arizona, but he comes out here for shows for years. Went to the Just Like Heaven show the week before. Met this guy, Al, who's out of Las Vegas presently. So we eat and stuff, and we're getting closer to the shuttle and to the venue. And I said, Al, make sure you have Danon and my phone number because there's not going to be any Wi-Fi there, and you're not going to be able to just message people on Facebook. So let's say the Wi-Fi is decent when there's not 50,000 people on the lawn next to the Rose Bowl. But what happens if there's people at the Rose Bowl? It's going to be the same difference, right? Nobody's going to be able to get through anything. Yeah. So you see a post of mine on Facebook where it just says Alice Moyer and there's no picture, because I literally would have had to stand there keeping my screen open without realizing that I could just do the time saver thing, screensaver thing, turn that off, leave the frickin' page open as it took 5 to 10 minutes for each photo to render to be able to post. And I don't think it's ever been that bad. But again, you deal with it.
Yeah.
Just post the pictures the next day. But yeah, I think I got maybe 2 or 3 before I gave up. I said, you know what? They're saying it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the Wi-Fi there was really bad. But that's cool that Nick Cave was, still getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Mid-Year, was Till Tuesday were great. OMD were great. Alison Moyer was great. She's still got that deep throaty voice and still looks great. Band sounded good. But come on, TiVo and the Go-Go's.
And then you have Madness. And then you have Madness, the gentleman taking his clothes off. That was...
I missed that. I haven't gone to look to see other people's footage. I'm like, I've had my experience, but now you're getting me to go back and look at what happened to all the other things that I missed. Yeah, Madness would have been great to see. But Devo did their thing, and they were even better than 2 years before because you could actually see the backdrop, and the stage was not hit by the sunlight as the sun was setting. And I looked at my friend Anthony, and I was just like, what were their shows like in 81? And my coworker, who's just a few years ahead of me, but apparently was more trusted as a kid and or had no adult supervision as a young teen, actually got to see them at a little club here in LA or wherever he was living at the time. And I was just like, I don't know that I would have had the wherewithal to get anywhere near that audience because that band is crazy and they're all around 70. Well, except for the drummer and the new guy. But you know what I'm saying? They've got liver spots, and those guys were just incredible. And the Go-Go's with the lighting and the Polaroids and the old footage of them as touring around as youngsters and all the people they hung out with. And it was just like 45 minutes and you're done. And you're in the middle of it. You're going, wow, they're a really good band.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm glad we both had a really good time. Maybe next year we'll cross paths. I don't know how. We'll have to text each other, take pictures of where we are.
Yeah. Let's do it before we actually get in the venue. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to wrap it up.
All right.
Eardrum Buzz. Sound familiar?
It's what's happening right now. And it's also the name of a song by a band, Wire.
Yep. So tell the listeners, what is this all about? What's the purpose? What's the objective? What are the goals here?
Purpose, the objective, the goal. I wrote about music for 28 years for a local fanzine. I left my last job and my friend had an online radio station for the magazine. I said, I'd like to do something about that. I did a 1-hour show for the time in between and for a year or two after. And then COVID hit. I'm in a new job and I'm sitting here going, I'm a mile away from work. I've got plenty of time now. I'm not traveling. I'm not as stressed. People are sitting around on their asses doing nothing. I'm like, what more can I do besides write about music, review albums, interview bands? I could play their music. So I started my own station and I want to be kind of big, bold 4 letters like K-Rock and KMET and KLOS. And I said, EDBZ. That's cool. That works. It's not East Coast or West Coast. It's like there's no W and K or whatever beforehand, but you get it. And I asked around to the people that I knew, and I got Gardy from Unreal to do the logo originally. He made a little circle, which is supposed to be the ear, and the lightning thing through the middle, which is supposed to be the buzz. And I said, what is that? Eardrum Buzz. And then I got the server. They're out of Greece. They're a little slow on catching up to me because they're 10 hours difference, but put on a whole bunch of music, got a whole bunch of DJs, Greg Peters, who's now on DKFM. I had a morning show. I have usually around 10 DJs doing shows. My weekends are packed. I've got monthly shows. I've got the schedule right below the player at eardrumbuzz.net. We're coming up on our 5th anniversary on July 4th. If you like post-punk, if you like dream pop, if you like indie pop, if you just like good music, goth music, Bauhaus, I know how you dress on Halloween, W. Yeah.
No, it's Charlie Brown.
Oh man, okay. Charlie Brown with black Docker boots on, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll find something interesting. It's not all dark. It's not all upbeat. It's not all sad. It's all good though. Hopefully you'll enjoy listening to the station and the shows. So check out eardrumbuzz.net. I'm on Facebook. Search Eardrum Buzz Radio for social media. And I thank you for this opportunity to talk to you and be interviewed for a change. Nice to be on the other side of the questions. I was thinking maybe if I'm nervous, I'll just direct questions towards W. I'm like, no, we did well. We had a good time. So thank you very much for this.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you don't mind, of course, you're not telling me who your favorite DJ is, but I'm going to list some of the DJs and just anything you want to share. So I got to start with a gentleman I interviewed, Nico Beatastic, out of Brighton. conversations.
Nico, one of the things I've realized working with DJs and talking to musicians and stuff doing the station is that
Yeah.
if I thought that the way I went about the world was weird or different or challenging or unacceptable, over the last 5 years, I've realized everybody I've dealt with somehow has their own challenges and their own things to get through. But Nico is probably one of the most awesome guys I've never met. He's a musician. He runs a record label. He's a teacher. He's got family. He's from France. He lives in England. He's got a funny accent, which he even says so. Some of the things that I've asked him to do that he still doesn't do kind of infuriate me, but I let it go because he's so awesome. And he started doing his show on this other station before he even started Eardrum Buzz Radio. And you can't buy loyalty,
Yeah.
Just the other day, he sent download code for his 4th EP. That's what I'm going to call it, because it's like 303030 remastered with two previously unreleased tracks.
Nice.
And he just sends that out. And probably one of the coolest uncool guys that you'll ever meet. I mean, he plays so many instruments. He does these albums with different vocalists, and Tom Lugo and Danny Mary, who does my website. He's been the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where I played.
Great way of putting it.
I don't know that the connection of how he gets these bands on his label, but I might have something to do with the fact that he's networking between me and all these different people, and we're all just sharing our love, and it's all kind of incestuous. And I'm so happy that I am associated with him, because I don't think the station would be the same without him.
Yeah.
Right, next. Who else you got?
All right. So, and by the way, Nico Beatastic, owner of Shore Dive Records.
Yes.
Shane Speed, another one out of the UK.
Yeah. So Shane has his own band. He's on Shore Dive. I think I might have bought the vinyl. I bought somebody's vinyl. Great guy. Also, I believe a teacher. It's a recurring thing. There's at least 2 teachers on my station. And he just said, "Hey, I'd be interested in doing a show. I'm putting out these albums or EPs based on the movements of the year, the seasons. And I'd like to do something about that." And I was like, "Okay, Shane, cool." He's got a great voice. He's very British, he's very nice and very, he's got that clipped accent, and he's obviously well educated, and he does a month by month thing. And you're just like, "Oh, what's March going to be? I have no idea. What's March? Is March fall? What is it? Spring? It's not quite there yet." Something about fire. His last one was about the ether, and the ether was what scientists, before there was, big science, was like, that's what holds everything together. The sky and the earth, and what's out there after the earth. If there's stuff outside the ether, that's what holds things together. You don't see it. It's not, you can't feel it, but it's there. And so he'll play a bunch of songs that he picks, and then, great guy.
Let's do a couple more.
All
right. This DJ, I've actually we did a show a while back. It was a tribute to one of our favorite bands, the Chameleons. And her name is Chris Gardner.
Mm-hmm. Love her.
Yeah. She just, like all of your other DJs, just so passionate about music.
I've
so,
never.
So humble.
She's what? Yeah.
She's so humble. Yes.
I've never had any problems with her. On the upside, I always wonder how she keeps doing these weekly 2, 3, sometimes 4-hour shows. But obviously, again, like myself now, she's in a place in her life to where she has the time and the energy and the wherewithal to do that. And great music taste. I would always listen to her shows and go, she's getting her own music on her own side of things. And I send everything that I think anybody will be interested in. I forward them an email. So I'm grateful that a lot of the DJs will actually do that. But to hear Chris's shows, I'm like, I know she's going to have to fill it up with 2 or 3 hours of stuff. So she might play some of the things I send her, but she's already got it. She's already playing it before I even know about it. And then I get the email. And then she puts things on she puts things on the station, and I'm just like, thank you, Chris. You know? But the guy that I met at Cruel World, Al, already listened to her show. Small world. Had no idea about me or necessarily Eardrum Buzz Radio. Maybe listened to her Friday show from out in Fargo.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm just finding myself over the years plopped down in the middle of this network and web of all these interesting people like yourself who, musicians and music lovers and who want to be DJs and just sharing the love. So yeah,
Are you, when it comes to the work that you do in running this whole operation, how the hell do you sleep, my friend?
I honestly don't work that hard. I don't work that hard.
Yes,
do you remember a few years back? You remember a few years back the what my boyfriend thinks I do at work, what my parents think I do at work, what I actually do at work. So what I actually do is watch guys on Twitch, listen to the people's shows who send me the shows to be put on Podbean before they get aired.
Yeah.
Upload program, schedule, all that fun stuff. 2 or 3 different shows. Spend hours trying to get the people to figure out how to do it themselves so that I don't have to do it every month. So that takes a few hours. Cleaning up spills here and there, loading a bunch of songs, answering a bunch of emails, and then doing my twice monthly show. So I'd say maybe a good 8-10 hours a week, if that.
Okay.
And then the rest of the time is just falling asleep in front of the TV and working my day job.
And
It's
I
all
think
worth it.
I'm sure it is. Absolutely. So tell us where you'd like to go with this program. Or do you have any, I don't know, future goals, anything that you really want to achieve?
I wouldn't mind getting a few new Patreons to help assuage the cost of running the station, the website, the server. But no, I'm pretty happy with where things are. I'd always love to have more listeners, more feedback. But as I was telling somebody who was doing a Twitch show that didn't turn out as he hoped, you put in the work, you get stuff out. If you don't have the energy to put out more work, you don't get as much out of it. But if you have one listener, if you have 5 listeners, if you have connections like you and I, you've listened to my shows, find the worth in what you do and don't worry about putting so much energy into it and finding out that I'm just not getting the viewers. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, well, I've already told you what you did wrong months ago, but you didn't listen. Nobody. I had Greg Wilson to ask questions to, and I said to him, I'm driving down the 210 freeway and I go by the Miller, whoever it is, the brewery off the Irwindale. And I look up and there's a sign, one of those signs that's digital and it changes 2 or 3 times. And I said, I saw the DKFM logo. And he says, Bret, that's the single most cost-effective thing I've ever done for this station. He tells me he had somebody from Canada, I want to say, who just happened to be on that freeway, just happened to be going down that area, look up and see the billboard, and so every time I go by there, I'm like, I wonder if the DKFM sign's still up there. And I'm like, is it eastbound? Is it westbound? But I'm still looking. So he's definitely somebody I can't be him. I can't compare myself to him, but I hope to still be doing this in 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
I hope to have listeners and make a few more dollars and be able to do phone apps and be on YouTube and all that stuff. You're already at what, 180? How many iHeart submissions do you have?
Oh, God. Well, episodes 173 will be dropped tomorrow.
You're enjoying it, right, dude? You keep on going, that's great. So I think as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing and not too terribly worried about getting bigger, I'll keep on doing it for years.
Yeah, no, I'm in total accordance with that. And for me, it really is just 95, 96, 97% of this is just connecting with people through art. And what that does for me and the endorphins that gets released and the sense of euphoria and connectivity, all that stuff. And when people message me or email me and respond in a way that, like you have done, and expressed interest in the surprise cast, that's where I just go, It's not so much about the number of people. I've had to have a few conversations with some marketing people. And the first thing I always tell them, I said, I'm not about numbers. And maybe that hurts me, but I'm not worried about that. My dad received the greatest compliment, and then I've got one more question for you. My dad received one of the greatest compliments from a customer. And my dad was in the pool business, the swimming pool business. He ran a retail shop and a service department. And he had been working with his customers for 2 to 3 years. And this is way before the internet. My dad came home one night. He had this huge smile on his face. And he sat down at the dinner table and he goes, "Hey, everyone, whole family. I received the best compliment today." And we're like, "What was it? What was it?" He said, "Well, this customer I've been working with for 2 to 3 years, we've been cleaning his pool. He said that XL Pool and Patio, my dad's company, was like the Nordstrom of the pool industry." And to this day, that compliment still lingers in my mind because I worked for Nordstrom's for many years and I was an educator for many years. When you get returning customers, when you connect with people on that quality of service, to me, that's what it's about. And so I absorb that and I try to apply that to my teaching career and to the work that I do as a podcaster. So that's what I mean. It's not about the numbers for me. So thank you to my father. All right, here we go. We're going to end it with this, my friend. And I was like, how do I want to end this interview with Bret? Put him through the surprise cast ringer. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read something to you.
Yeah, let's do some hardball.
Here we go. This is an issue, Record Collector, and it's a special issue that I picked up all on Susie and the Banshees. Love Susie. And great extensive interviews, analysis on each one of their albums, great photos, all that stuff. And I'm going to read something to you here, my friend, and then I'm going to ask you a tough question, but I think you are going to be up for the challenge. Here we go. I first heard the Banshees via Spellbound, blasted out spectacular volume, roaring down a stone corridor as school as a youngster. And while I never had the chance to find out who it was at the time, or indeed who was playing it, that voice stayed with me somehow. But it wasn't until the early 90s, then a young, slightly more switched on teenager, that I connected the dots. And so it was, having fallen hard for the Banshees' 10th album, Superstition, that I finally found my way to the end of that corridor and a source of those exotic chanting sounds that had first ping-ponged into my subconscious all those years ago. This was written by Rick Flynn, the editor of this magazine. So here's my question. Rick goes on, gushes about the impact of the Banshees, Joy Division, Jane's Addiction, all these bands. Okay, Bret, tell us 5 either bands or albums in your pantheon. 5. I want to know.
Gonna make me count? Gonna make me do math? Okay, you count. I'll just keep on going.
Yeah.
All right, 5 bands. Go on.
5 bands or 5 albums that to this day you can say, yeah, changed my life, shaped me in some way. Whatever it is. Was it the Banshees?
Tinderbox was probably the first album of theirs I got into. It was right as I was in my senior year of high school. They actually toured with Love and Rockets, so I'd have loved to seen that tour. Sorry to say that I didn't really get to go see the Susie and the Banshees until after high school, but I did get to see her and Budgie as the Creatures.
Nice.
And I have been able to see Susie since then live, even at the Coachella Festival. I have a little out on the stations that don't even get us started about Susie and the Banshees. DJ Wednesday would probably just tell you 5 Susie and the Banshees albums, but maybe Dead Can Dance in there. Let me see. I'm going to go way back and then hopefully get 5, if not 25. But we mentioned Steely Dan Asia.
Yep.
Rush's Moving Pictures.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
counting. The Police's Ghost in the Machine.
Nice. That's 3.
The Cure's Head Up. And probably, if I could do Substance by New Order, I would say Brotherhood. If I couldn't do Substance, but Brotherhood from New Order.
Yes.
That was the album that they went back to playing guitars, and I'm sure Hook was so happy about that because they started on their way to becoming a keyboard band, which of course they did right back after Brotherhood. But I would say that pretty much Rush's Moving Pictures, yeah, that would pretty much balance out intelligence, quirkiness, storytelling. Pretenders. The first Pretenders album would probably be up there, but yeah, I could go on. Couldn't you had to stop me at 5.
I did because
We
I
only
know
have so much time to talk.
we could be here for 3 hours.
But
I'm so happy you mentioned Brotherhood because, and I'm not part of all the New Order fan groups out there. Maybe Brotherhood is discussed quite often as being right up there, but Jesus, what an album. It just moves and glides and soars. You start off with Paradise. You got Weirdo in there. Of course, Bizarre Love Triangle. Every Little Counts. Come on.
Bum, bum, bum. He cracks up in the middle of that song. I think you are a pig. I think you know it's true. Every little counts when I'm with you. Bum, 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 bum. Yep.
It's so good. It really is so good. And I thank you. That is good stuff. Bret Miller, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm glad we had it and we were able to connect.
Yeah. It's been months in the making.
It's true. I'm going to read one more quote here.
All right.
And this time, neither of us are going to say anything about it. Again, this comes from the book Atlas of the Heart, written by Brene Brown, the great podcaster and PhD writer of vulnerability and courage. Here we go. Because we can feel belonging only if we have the courage to share our most authentic selves with people. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. My name is W, also known as William, host of the High Art on the Edge page, PCE, and Surprisecast. And remember this, everyone. Great music is all around us. You just have to keep your ears open. Thank you.